this session of our Pioneer Chats program, we have two pioneers. On my right is Mr. Dave Stahlhut, who spent, I think, most of his career with the Dupont company.
Yeah, most of the Dupont career.
That's good. And on his right is somebody I've known for a few years, Mr. Sherman May, who has a long and varied, and I'm sure a very interesting career in desalination at various locations.
Yes.
And DuPont developed the B9,
Mm-hmm.
or the early permeators. At that time, the competition, which was primarily fluid or Roga in those days,
Correct.
Was selling systems. DuPont elected not to do that. Did you know why they decided not to do that?
Well, we had that discussion probably twice a year at our business meetings, and it was always an active discussion of whether we should go into systems, whether we should become a utility and sell water.
Right.
I guess all I can say is that it's a healthy discussion, and in the end, the arguments that won were the arguments that said we had best market access with the approach that we took towards developing a network of licensees, and that our strength, what DuPont brought to the table, was the technology around the membrane itself.
Right.
And so I think it was early on, at least, a case of where we thought we would best serve the company DuPont and serve our own business and serve the market, really, if we stuck to that part of it that we believed we could do very well.
One thing that some of my associates that worked there told me that it was very difficult technically to modify the fiber to give it the same kind of performance that was currently coming out of the flat sheet market. It was, it was kind of, it was what it was, and it was difficult to do the surface modifications necessary to improve flux and salt rejection.
Well, just think about the differences in the construction of the device, and if you think about the transport that has to occur across not only the membrane, but then the transport of the product water down the bore of the fiber,
right.
Creates a whole set of constraints which have to be optimized to give you the right fiber diameter inside and then outside diameter based on the strengths and the pressures that you're running at, and we of course have huge amount of surface area packed into a cartridge because of the fine fiber, so that creates issues on the feed and reject side to make sure that you have the right kind of distribution.
In your time at Envirogenics, Sherman, what is there one particular project that stands out as being memorable for either because of its success or maybe its failure?
Oh, I think the most fun and the things I remember are our pilot plants down for the Office of Saline Water in San Diego. Variety of unknowns that we had to solve at that time, and all the technology that had to be discovered. In those days, they didn't use fiberglass elements. They used placite coated carbon steel. All you had to do was nick that a little bit, and almost invariably there was acid feed, so the acid would start attacking the steel, and then that would mess up the membrane. So,
yeah.
And in fact, the big unit I talked about, that with the tubular unit, we had positive displacement pumps on that, and we started getting iron fouling in that. And we bought everything stainless steel in that, including the big positive displacement pump. I mean, this is like 100 horsepower or so. So I started going around with a magnet one day, and I found out one of the blind flanges they had on one side, they put in carbon steel and painted it over. And, and it looked like a dish when we took that thing off because of all the acid had eaten away the steel.
So with the flat sheet was actually made in Delaware, and you rolled the elements in San Diego.
We actually had 3 different locations where the flat sheet could have come from during the course of that development. We had a film plant in Towanda, PA, I believe, or New York, where we manufactured some of the B15 membrane. We had we could manufacture flat membrane at the experimental station in Wilmington, Delaware, which is a large research facility for many of DuPont's product lines, not just Permaset. And then towards the end, we had a machine at Glasgow, Delaware, where we could make the composite membrane. Right. The whole last phase of that development went fairly rapidly. From the time that we had the A15 membrane through the period where we were developing the devices to the period where DuPont made the decision to withdraw from that market. And I think there's a variety of reasons, business reasons. After roughly 10 years in the spiral business, the whole focus of that effort was to see whether or not we could recapture a leading position in the brackish side of the business. Right. And we weren't successful. We didn't do that. There was many people in the business who believed that really our strength was the seawater business, seawater membranes, and they saw the big effort that we made in the flat membrane business and the spiral cartridge business as a distraction to what was really our strength. Right. And so when we exited the spiral business, that's when I moved back to Delaware, took over the manufacturing for the hollow fiber business, and also the development work that was going on at that time to develop new seawater devices, not new membranes,
like
new
the
seawater
twin
devices. The twin,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. In the early days of CA seawater plants in Saudi Arabia, they used to chlorinate, and they had this compound X.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It turns out that it was actually they were helping the bacteria grow because they were creating assimilable organic carbon, which is bug food.
These are diatoms?
Yeah, but they break up and then they turn into bug food. And when they quit doing that and just had intermittent shock chlorination, they were killing the things, but they weren't creating enough food for the ones
right.
that were hiding to be able to survive. So all the plants operated a lot better.
Right.
Yeah.
I always thought that with the biofouling that things that induced frequent changes in the quality of the water that the biofoulant saw had a better opportunity than those kinds of things that were continuous. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a continuous quality of whatever it is in the feed water, there's a higher potential that the organisms that manage to survive in that would take over and become the main issue.
That's right.
And so that by inducing some control system that involved changes, it inhibited the development of a stable species.
It upsets their normal rhythm. Right. Yeah, they were very reluctant to go after RO.
Absolutely. They had some very serious problems. They had they were segregated into large plants and small plants, and some of the small plants were like 1,000,000 gallons a day and less, and they had some serious problems. Some of them were related to intake systems. They had them in very shallow locations and relating to your issues about biofouling. And it was very warm in those waters in the shallow systems. And
Yeah.
so I went to one plant and there were parts scattered all over the place because it wasn't operating at all and they were trying to get it going again. So